أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. فسبحان الله حين تمسون وحين تصبحون وله الحمد في السماوات والأرض وعشيا وحين تظهرون يخرج الحي من الميت ويخرج الميت من الحي ويحيي الأرض بعد موتها وكذلك تخرجون ومن آياته أن خلقكم من تراب ثم إذا أنتم بشر تنتشرون ومن آياته أن خلق لكم من أنفسكم أزواجا لتسكنوا إليها وجعل بينكم مودة ورحمة إن في ذلك لآيات لقوم يتفكرون.
Look at this. The Prophet ﷺ, when he spoke about the criteria that you should look out for when it comes to getting married, when you're looking for a spouse, a husband, or a man is looking for a wife, the criteria that he pointed out each time is that look at that religiosity. For both, the deen. That deen is that they fulfill their obligations to Allah. If they do more, that's even better. Right? But there are people who fulfill their obligations to Allah Ta'ala, they are a match. That's what the Prophet ﷺ is saying. Rather, he says to us ﷺ, that is the most important criteria. Everything else does not matter. If that is not intact, if they have all the other criteria, it's not a match for you. He said ﷺ about the man, إِذَا أَتَاكُم مَّن تَرْضَوْنَ دِينَهُ وَخُلُقَهُ فَزَوِّجُوهُ. If a man proposes to your daughter and you're pleased with his character and his religiosity, then marry him off to your daughter. If this character and religiosity, his deen are intact. But notice something here. The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned the religion, the deen, but then on top of that he mentioned the character. Character is part of deen, but he mentioned it by itself to show that it has importance. Because a man's character is one of the most important things in a marriage. Some people, they are religious in terms of doing the obligations that Allah has obliged upon them in terms of their ibadah, but they are zero when it comes to character. He may beat you to the first row in every salah, he might be in the masjid at all times, but his tongue is loose, he utters whatever he wants. He behaves with the people however he wants. He is harsh, he oppresses the people, he backbites the people, he is one who is extremely aggressive, and so on. These are things that one needs to work on. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah tabarak wa ta'ala, this is to the men. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he says, this is a general statement, but even more important for a man. He says, if an individual surpasses you and is higher than you in good character, he has surpassed you in deen. He has more deen than you. If someone has more good character than you, he has more deen than you. That's a general statement for everyone. But it's even more important for the man. You know why I say it's even more important for the man? Because the man, he's the one, most of the time, who either makes a marriage or breaks it. It's within the man's sphere. Because there are going to be times in a marriage where things are going to be extremely difficult. There are going to be times in a marriage where things are going to get tough. There are going to be times in a marriage where there are going to be extreme disagreements with your spouse. When these matters occur, the man does not have the right to be emotional at times like this. He doesn't have that right. Because if you were to be emotional, that's what can lead the marriage to breaking down. For instance, your wife is upset. She is shouting, she is screaming, she perhaps is even breaking the cups and the plates and everything. Right? How do you react? You're meant to be calm in a situation like that. You're not allowed to be angry. You're not allowed to shout back. You wait for the situation to calm down and then you deal with it. That's part of having good character and being one who's wise. The Prophet ﷺ was like that. Our Messenger ﷺ, because he's the best example for all of us. He ﷺ, did he have difficult times in his marriages? Yes, he did. How did he deal with it? He dealt with it in the following manner. Imagine, look at this. One day, the Prophet ﷺ, he's in the house of Aishah radiallahu anha. And then, he was going to have some guests that are coming to his home. So, the wives of the Prophet ﷺ, they used to compete. They were jealous of each other, so they used to compete. So one of the other wives of the Prophet ﷺ, she sent her servant with a dish of food to take to the house of Aisha to be given to the guests. The food is brought to the house. Now, Aisha radiallahu anha, when she sees it, she gets offended. And she has every right to get offended. Because this other wife is making it seem like that Aisha cannot cater for the guests. That she cannot host them. So what does Aisha radiallahu anha do? She grabs the dish and she smashes it in front of the Prophet ﷺ. Imagine, Amam al-Rasul, in front of the Prophet ﷺ, she smashes it. Some of the narration, it says that the guests were there with the Prophet ﷺ and she smashed the plates in front of the guests and the Prophet ﷺ. Imagine now, I want you to imagine the house of the Prophet ﷺ. It's very small, it's a hujrah, very small. The guests and where Aisha are and where the Prophet ﷺ is all within the same area. It's very tiny. She's not in a separate room when she's doing this. They're in the same area, she smashed it. How would you react if that happened to you? Perhaps some of us, if that happened to them, their wife smashed the plates in front of them, they'll tell all the guests, Yallah, everyone out. I will deal with this right now, right? And perhaps the situation will escalate. And they will let their emotions drive them. But look at the best of creation, Muhammad alayhi salatu salam. His first reaction was that he smiled. He smiled. The Sahaba are shocked. Some of them are thinking, what just happened? What on earth is going on? What have we walked into? And the Prophet alayhi salatu salam, he knows they're confused, so he says to them, غارت أمكم, your mother became jealous. And then he helps clean up the plates as if nothing happened. That takes a lot of self-restraint. That is true strength. A man who can do that is a strong man. Because the Prophet ﷺ told us, لَيْسَ الشَّدِيدُ بِالسُّرْعَةِ, that the strong man is not the one who's able to wrestle people and beat them physically. That's not a strong man. He said, إِنَّمَا الشَّدِيدُ مَنْ يَمْلِكُ نَفْسَهُ عِنْدَ الْغَضَبِ. The true strong one is the one who's able to control himself when he's angry. If you lose control of yourself when you're angry, you're a weak man. You let shaitan get the best of you. You're not able to combat him. You don't have the strength to do so. But a man who's able to have that self-restraint and he refrains from being extremely emotional and even losing his mind because of how emotional he becomes, that's a strong man. Now the question that every single one of us, especially the men, the brothers who are here, needs to ask himself is that, how much of that do I possess? If I don't possess that, I need to now work on that. Especially if you're not married, before I get into a marriage. That you learn to be forbearing. You learn to be patient. The Prophet ﷺ, he told us, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمُ وَإِنَّمَا الْحِلْمُ بِالتَّحَلُّمِ. He said that knowledge, it's learnt. And just like that, forbearance, learning to be patient is something that you can learn, you teach yourself to have.